Folks, that concludes our long unit on contracts, longest unit in the textbook in our course. And what we want to do is now move into the next unit that talks about sales. And sales is almost always a welcome thing. I tell people, I've worked with a lot of startup businesses. The number one reason that I have seen, often hear that the reason why businesses fail is lack of capital. And I don't necessarily disagree with that, I just don't think it's the best answer. Number one reason businesses aren't successful is somebody didn't go out and sell something.
Cash flow.
Just, you gotta sell stuff. And then if you sell stuff, you need to make sure you get paid for it. But the first step is, if you don't have any sales, you have nothing. There's no purpose to having a business if people aren't selling stuff. So in any event, sales is an important concept. We introduce you again to the Uniform Commercial Code, UCC Article 2. And we look at two pieces of Article 2. Article 2 is sales. And again, this is commercial. We're looking across state lines and making commerce move. Article 2A is about lease sales. Many businesses today buy things is the essence of it, but it's called a lease. So one of the most common things that we see in an average business office environment is a 3-year lease for a big copier, a commercial quality copier. Very few businesses pay cash for them. They're usually delivered. Sometimes they come with a service contract, sometimes they don't. The company that leases you that copier absolutely positively has no intention of it ever coming back. You can use it for a boat anchor, you can bury it in your parking lot. They don't want it back. So they're going to charge you a penalty of some kind. So what we learned to do in my small business is we would negotiate the end of the lease at the beginning of the lease to make sure that we didn't get stuck with an obsolete, used up copier and some big high price to get rid of it. So we actually began at the back and said, well, if we do this lease and we give you, $75 a month for 3 years, what are we going to do with this loser when it's over? So it's kind of interesting because we got a lease termination that they directed us. We're here in Houston, Harris County, Texas. The remedy or end of the lease was they wanted the stupid copier delivered to California. Now, they perfectly well knew nobody was going to ship a heavy, bulky copier to California. It'd be much cheaper to buy out the back end of the unit. But we had made a previous agreement, so we went to the local vendor. Now, how do you end up with somebody saying, well, you need to deliver to California, and you're dealing with a local vendor? Because the typical lease sale transaction is not the person who sold it to you. So, Joe the copier company here in town, selling Canon copiers and rebuilt Canon copiers, did not finance that lease. Ace Finance Company does leasing for finance for a whole bunch of different businesses, including Joe's Canon Copier Company. So that's why you end up with this split in interest. All they want to do is sell copiers. They're not holding the paper. So they had forgotten that we made the deal with them that they had to take the copier at the back end. So we reminded them of that when we were asked to ship it to California, and they took it and dumped it in the ocean or something. No, probably rehabbed it another time and sold it and leased it yet another time. But so keep in mind, 2 is sales, 2A lease sales. Okay, so it's an important provision. It's pretty straightforward. Keep in mind, only goods are covered by Article 2. Services are not covered. Watch out, professional business persons. Good faith, honesty, and fact is assumed in business transactions. Return goods. Now, here is something to appreciate. Many of us, as day-to-day consumers, have become accustomed to easy returns. A lot of us buy stuff on the internet, and we want to make sure that there's free returns, and we don't have to pay return shipping and all that jazz. We're used to walking into Walmart or Target or Nordstrom's, and whatever it is, they take it back with little or no hassle. And today, you say, gee, I don't have my receipt. Well, did you buy it at this store? Yep. Did you use your Discover card? Yep. Give me your Discover card. We'll find it. Yeah. So returns are very easy. Now, fast forward to the other side of the spectrum, to business transactions. Not so easy. I occasionally, as I rental property, need to go to true commercial operations. Big sign on the wall. If you bring something back, we don't care. 15% restocking charge. And you better have your receipt, and you better do it within 7 days. It's perfectly within their right to do that. I work with some small manufacturers. They say, if you want us to do warranty work and if you're unhappy with it, you must pay the return shipping to our factory in East Harris County. That's it. Don't like the deal, don't come buy pumps from us. Yeah. So part of this is understanding that when you put your you take your baseball cap off and you put your hard hat on, you're dealing with a different world of business, and you need to be very careful because you're representing your business. You're making sure the terms are fair to your business. So you need to be very careful about that. Now, one of the acronyms we want you to take away is FOB. How many people are familiar with FOB just from your business experience? Show of hands. Okay. People, not as many as they thought. Okay, free on board. Free on board doesn't mean a lot to us today. It meant a lot 200 years ago when the term was first developed. But basically, FOB, free on board, means the point at which the item will be delivered for sale. So, with my folks in East Harris County who make things, they want to do free on board their dock. Don't care where it's going, they're going to deliver it to their dock. Now they do commit to putting it on a pallet and securing it so it can be safely moved. Now, these are big items, they need to be moved with a forklift, but they crate them, is what it's called. But beyond that, it's your problem to get them wherever you want to go. So most companies are going to use a public carrier to bring them to there. Now, why do we care? Why does it make a difference if it's free on board my dock or free on board the buyer's dock? Who cares? Transportation. Transportation, cheap or expensive? Expensive, especially if it's a big item. How about, what's the other factor besides cost of transportation?
Risk, insurance.
Absolutely, very good. Risk and insurance. And so you don't want to mess with it. You don't want to deal with it. Now, the buyer may say, well, if I have to hire a public carrier to bring the stuff to me, I may use a different vendor, or I may offer you less money because you're taking away some value from it. The key element for all of you as business people is to make sure you know where you're getting the stuff and what you're paying for. Because you indeed may be willing to pay far less if it's delivered at the seller's dock than if it's delivered to your dock, especially because we're so spoiled as consumers with overnight delivery from Amazon Prime and stuff like that, right? So not the same world when you get into commercial. Free on board vessel, car, other vehicle, something in the middle. CIF is a relatively new term. That means everything's included, basically. Now, a well-written contract most likely will go past what the code is about. Okay, code is fairly forgiving, but it gets into a lot of gray areas. Much better as business people to, again, most of the time we're doing the same things over and over again. We're going to use standardized contracts. And even if we make exceptions, we may have standardized exceptions so that we don't have to go back to the attorneys and go, look, well, if we have circumstance A, we do this. Circumstance B, we do that. Perfectly acceptable. Because again, you expect to do thousands of transactions. You don't need to be going back to your attorney every time. But you need to have an anticipation of how your contracts are going to work. We'll talk some more about that. Remember, you can sell stuff without ever physically delivering it. You can take a bill of lading. You can have a negotiable bill of lading. And a simple example, you have 100 TV sets. You put them in a warehouse. You get a negotiable bill of lading. It says there's 100 Sony TVs in that warehouse in North Dallas. So you go to somebody and says, well, you know, I got a little retail store, and I'd love to have those TV sets on closeout, so I'll take them. You say, fine. Buy the piece of paper from me, and then you can take it to the warehouse and go get the TV sets. So FOB, the warehouse, not even your loading dock, and not certainly not their loading dock. But so you can move things around like that, documenting transactions. We had mentioned before already in our contracts chapters about course of dealing. Uniform Commercial Code is much more forgiving than traditional common law. So what we want to make sure happens is that we really pay attention to what we're doing, and that everything that we can get in writing we can. However, in the absence of terms, or just routine small things, like you just don't want to be hassled with it. It's not your main business. You just need some parts, or you need something. You're repairing a machine, you need a handful of parts. So you may just say, you know what, send those over, and it's whatever their purchase order says and what your purchase order says. But it breeds a problem that we call battle of the forms, where there was no clear-cut agreement and the two purchase orders don't exactly meet. Now, under the Uniform Commercial Code, the rule for that is non-conflicting terms apply. So you may have 70% of one, 80% of the other, no conflict. Everybody's happy. The little bits that don't overlap, however, you're going to have a problem if they're important to the deal. And that's how that works. It's a battle of forms. And as we mentioned before, you have gap filling under the code. We mentioned the example of the organic whole wheat delivery. Common law would not allow that. Parallel evidence rule would not allow that. Uniform Commercial Code does, because it's a way to expedite commerce. Now, one of the things to keep in mind is that among many other considerations is time. So time of delivery is extremely important, and I will tell you that in modern manufacturing, when I look at contracts for my clients, one of the areas that we spend an inordinate amount of time on is the length of time to delivery, number one, and the length of time for warranties. We're going to come back and talk about warranties separately, but at this point, think about it as something you're negotiating. You're in charge of negotiating for your company. So obviously, if something's not delivered timely, it may be useless. You and your family are going to have the blowout reunion of the decade. So you order 100 t-shirts that say the Jones family reunion. But the reunion is the weekend of November 11th and 12th. The t-shirts absolutely, positively must be ready and delivered by the morning of Friday, period. No cut deal. So you want to put that in the deal. Now, you show up and there's no t-shirts. They didn't make it. Well, you can then cover, when we talk about this in the contract terms, you can go cover and do whatever you have to do to get the t-shirts made on short notice. Tough luck for the guys who did this job on time. Time is very important. One of the key cliches to put in a contract is time is of the essence. You've probably heard that as a cliche, but it's a legal cliche and it has a significant meaning. It means if we put in that something must be delivered by November 15th, and we say time is of the essence, it means if it's not delivered by November 15th, you have significantly breached the contract and we're going to seek damages or cancel the deal. So watch for that term, time is of the essence. But Where we get into this is different organizations in negotiation will say, well, gee, they want to put in that it has to be delivered by this date, and we don't want to agree to it, but we really want the business. And I'm like, put in the date that is very safe for your company. So if you think you can make the pump in 3 months, but 6 months is like absolute, you've never had one take that long, do the contract for 6 months and be early, a lot better than missing your deadline. And have, businesses that are in business for a long time oftentimes have long-standing vendor relationships where they can get the job done, even in the case of catastrophe. And a lot of that depends on how you define catastrophe. Most of the time, we transfer title with the sale. Certainly, we think about this with regard to automobiles. You go buy a new car, you don't actually usually get title that day because it's being sent to Austin to be processed, but you get the car and the promise of the title. But we could also do it the other way around. We can hand the title and say, well, when the car comes in, you'll be all set to go. We'll have it for you in a couple of days. So it works in both directions. But we certainly, the best situation is to have the item and title at the same time. Again, in a lot of circumstances, not always easy to do. But title is the beneficial value of what you're purchasing. So if you want to put suppose you reject the goods. You're certainly allowed to do that. If you reject the goods, then the title remains with the seller or returns to the seller depending on how long you've held the goods. Again, with large commercial items and equipment and stuff like this, this gets to be a very significant situation because of the weight and the cost of moving things around and the value of things. And this can cause a lot of issues because of that. We talked about this already. Risk of loss, very important consideration in delivering and moving items. In sale on approval, oftentimes the party accepting the item for approval retains the loss risk until they release it back to the seller. And then again, it goes in both directions, but oftentimes the stipulation will be, we'll let you hold this on approval, but you're responsible for it while it's in your custody. Global sales contracts, CISG. Now, what's interesting about global sales contracts is that CISG is more similar to common law than to the Uniform Commercial Code. It's not, it's the opposite of what you might expect. But if you think about it a little bit, it probably makes some sense from this standpoint. Wouldn't it seem to you that if you're going to ship stuff halfway around the world, you're not going to be seeing the buyer and the seller face to face, that you want the written document and the terms to be even more clear. So whereas the gap filling and the flexibility you have in the Uniform Commercial Code, hey, we're all friends here, we all function under the U.S. Constitution, and we all play under the Uniform Commercial Code. You get into an international ballpark, you're dealing with different circumstances. So keep in mind, you may have some protection under the UCC, but be careful when you're doing international transactions because the rules are going to be more similar to common law.